taxpayers, you're back with MrTaxes.ca with special guests and our special co-host. Make sure and tune in weekly Wednesday mornings, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 noon Central. Remember to subscribe and remember to smash, bash, and kick it in the you-know-what with that like button if you want more videos like this. There we have it. We're going live, guys. Elton, where are you tuning in from?
Tuning in from Ajax, but more specifically Toronto.
Yeah, people know. I say Vancouver. Nobody's ever heard of Tumbleweed, BC, so I say Vancouver. Jesse?
I'm in, similar situation, Sherwood Park, Alberta, but everyone knows Edmonton. Nobody knows Sherwood Park.
Everybody knows the Oilers.
Everyone knows the Oilers, especially nowadays.
What webinar are we on now, Jesse? 18, 19, 20? Who's counting?
Oh man, I'm not.
Yeah, that's not. Trust me, that's not Jesse's job. That's not Jesse's job. So this, for those that are tuning in, maybe you're watching on the replay on YouTube. We're live here with Elton from Filogix or Finastra. Filogix is a Finastra company, serving mortgage brokers across Canada. And we bring Filogix, somebody from Filogix, on the last Wednesday of every month. So thanks for coming on, Elton.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun time today. I think just chatting with you before the webinar started. Big sports fan. Who are your big sports teams? Who do you follow in maybe the four major sports?
When it comes to basketball, in this case, I'm a huge Laker fan just because I'm a huge Kobe Bryant fan. May he rest in peace. When it comes to baseball, a very random team that most people wouldn't think that most people don't follow unless you're from the area. I'm a huge fan of the Seattle Mariners because of Edgar Martinez, for those who might know him, very talented player. When it comes to hockey, in this case, another team that would surprise you, the former Quebec Nordique team, the Colorado Avalanche, is my favorite team out there. And if we're thinking about football, I'm a huge Kansas City fan just because I like what Mahomes does when he performs on the field. So those are my four major teams, I would say.
How about Jesse? We know you're an Oiler fan.
Well, if I'm being honest, I'm more of one of those guys who follows when things get interesting. I'm a big fan of any sport. I like all sports. I enjoy watching live, However, it's not one of my highest values to really just follow and dive deep into that. So I don't even really have a favorite. Obviously, the Oilers are in the playoffs. I live in pretty much Edmonton, so I feel like it's only good for me to support them through this. So, yeah, sports just isn't really one of my top values or priorities, if I'm being honest.
We'll leave it at that. So those that are tuning in again, this is what we call the Dollar Tax Club weekly webinar. We serve predominantly mortgage brokers in the mortgage community, servicing their clients on their tax issues, getting tax documents for clients, etc., to help push mortgages across the finish line, so to speak. And every week we have an agenda. So what are we going to learn today, Elton, from Filogix?
So in this case, I think just for those who are probably new, at least to this episode, and may have not seen the previous ones on Filogix, I think I'll touch a little bit of high level of what we've kind of looked at so far, but really our focus
just to stop you short, if you have not seen the previous webinars, you can tune in on the YouTube channel and remember to like, subscribe, and comment, right? Somewhere around the video here.
Yeah, for sure.
That's our paid public service announcement.
But yeah, our focus is going to be more or less on application automations that we have within the platform, which I think from a user standpoint, especially for the broker community, particularly those who are not necessarily with the marketing background or not really in tune with that marketing sort of strategy, it's probably one of those sort of plug and play options that we have in the platform that will help sort of retain more customers that you've been working with previously and keep that engagement going. It kind of works as a little bit like a drip campaign, but with prescribed timelines that will help out agents who want to reach out to their client.
And some of the things I've seen before from Ryan, taking our first look under the hood, so to speak, with Filogix and Carly, I make the assembly to other software. We use, we're in the accounting world, so we use Excel a lot, and we use probably 5% of the functions in Excel. If we learned, just 10% more of the functions, we would get probably triple or quadruple the value we get out of the software. So that's why we love you guys coming on. at least once a month. And we've spoken to Ryan about getting some training videos that we can post up on our channel as well. So we can cut these out. But again, if you like what you're learning here from Elton, tune back and look at some of the previous webinars on our YouTube channel. And then again, every week on the webinars, we try and keep it light with a few tax tips and jokes, and talk about sports or whatever the topic is of the week. And then practice what you learn. And remember, you can go back to the webinars and watch these, but more importantly, reach out to Elton, reach out to the team. We'll have your contact info up a little bit later, Elton, and feel free to share that. And then at the end, we'll have Q&A, and any questions, let's say you're watching on the webinar, we won't be able to answer them live, of course. So if you're watching this on the replay, our contact info is around there. But again, reach out to Elton at Filogix or Carly or one of the team and get those questions answered. Oh, number 20. There you go, Jesse. We got it. You don't have to worry. We got that for you every week. Thank you, Alicia, for that. Alicia running the back end of the webinar. So a little bit about us. We've been around for a little while. So our trademark's backdated to 84. Started doing tax work right out of high school. So if you do the math, I was in high school, I think in 81, 82, starting grade 9 in Ontario. But by 2015, we sold in December of 2015. We had 42 locations, 350 plus staff. So grew that from our basement and embraced technology. Being born in the 60s, I'm right on the cusp of technology. I remember we didn't have computers in high school. And then my younger brother talked about this computer thing that they were installing in the high school. And I think it took up half the room, and now we got full-blown computers on a mobile device. Pretty soon we're going to have them implanted in our COVID chips. Whatever they plan on putting into us. And more importantly, going into our second year now working with Finastra and Filogix. So it's been a great ride, lots of bumps and hurdles, but I think we have things smoothed out. There's always going to be bumps and hurdles, but last month, I believe we surpassed 30,000 plus document orders for Filogix. And I know that you're doing over 500,000 mortgages a year through the platform. So, keeping the mortgage industry alive in Canada. And Jesse, he's modest, but look at the list of accolades.
Talking about myself isn't one of the things I love to do, but I've been in the.
But you're gonna do it anyway, right?
I'm gonna do it anyway. I've been an online entrepreneur since 2016. I've built and grown a few different communities. I've trained up to thousands of people at any given time, put together many different trainings and courses. I'm a coach and consultant for a few different things, helping people build their online presence, digital marketing, different systems and software integrations. And just that's how me and Rob met. Was I reached out to him to do the 10-year tax review, and then we started chatting, found out he was working on this affiliate program and needed a little bit of a hand. So I offered my services, and one thing led to the next. Then he learned that I was actually life insurance licensed, and he's like, hey, I'm actually I have a whole brokerage for doing life insurance as well. So now I'm actually heading up the Alberta division for Mr. Insurance as well, which is really cool and exciting. So lots of big things coming down the pipeline, and really excited for the future.
And humble. That's Jesse. So Elton, just a couple quick questions, and then we'll get right into your demo. But how long have you been with Filogix? I know you're with the bank before, so maybe a little bit of your history.
Yeah, for sure. So that's your initial question. I've been with Filogix literally for about 10 months now. Actually, less than that, just about 9 months at this point. So sort of still getting my feet wet, so to speak, in terms of the broker industry. But my background in terms of banking allows me to have the experience from a lending side, particularly on the mortgage end. And it's pretty extensive. When I first started off, I was back on Valentine's Day in 2005. I was just working pretty much essentially call center. But it was the call center that focused specifically on lending. So I did a lot of lending application deals with clients over a period of about 5 years. From there, I moved over towards our operating team that we have that supports branches in terms of operating procedures, business processes, things of that nature. So our main goal at that point really is to provide insight to our branches and empower them to use our processes that you're supposed to follow from a compliance standpoint to meet client expectations without issues. From there, I became a systems manager or systems analyst, I should say in this case, in support of what is known as a credit systems platform. Gave me a little bit of a technical background, knowing how to data mine, knowing how to data manage, and how data goes from system to system. And then finally, I ended up as a product manager for Overdraft for essentially all of Canada, and I was managing that for a couple of years before landing at Finestra. So pretty extensive, a lot of experience in terms of operating products, and also a little bit on strategy as well, in terms of just how to effectively go about strategy from a product perspective, marketing, to some degree, a little bit on risk as well from a compliance side and risk side. So a dabble of pretty much in everything.
And just a warning to all our future guests, if you don't provide us with an image for the webinar, we just grab one off the internet. So I think that's his best Barry White suit he's got going there. So being we were chatting before the webinar, being a bit of a sports fan, any sports background yourself?
It's funny, despite the frame that you see me in right now, which looks pretty big, I wasn't really that much of an athlete coming out from high school, I should say. The only thing I really did athletic was dragon boating. So I used to row a lot about 10 years ago. Was introduced to it from a former colleague of mine back when I was working at the Bank of Montreal. So I started doing that, then joined more of a rep team in this case. So I started competing a little bit harder than that. And then, kind of, I guess, fell in love, and I guess love for my wife then preceded that of dragon boat. So my athletic days ended once I met my wife, essentially.
No, he'll beat me to a pulp, but we had a mortgage broker a couple of years ago, did a couple webinars with us, gold medalist in rowing out of Victoria. I'll have to get his name and get you in contact with him. A big guy. He said most of the rowers are really tall, I guess, because of the leverage. Really helps with the leverage.
It does. It helps in terms of length, in terms of just your ability to reach. But what most people don't realize when it comes to rowing or any sort of just boat sports where you have a paddle in hand is they think it's a lot of upper body, but a lot of it's actually just leg drive and your back. As long as you're able to leverage those 2 points within your racing, you'll be okay. If you use mostly your upper body, particularly your arms, you're probably going to be dead in the water about 200 meters in. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Things you didn't know about sport. And,
sure.
So I know it's your first time on Webinar Jam here, but there's a little icon at the top. We're going to get into your presentation, Elton, and just a preview here on the presentation. You'll be able to queue it up. I think little camera icon in the top. Awesome. We can see the screen. You can see all the icons there. And Alicia in the background is going to move your image around. So if it's blocking anything on the screen, she'll be able to move it around. She may, enlarge your image or shrink it, or, to help us all out, maybe just block it out completely.
For sure.
Just joking on that one. I don't know how big you are, man, on screen, but we'll have to make amends before we meet up. But I think the national conference is here in the fall. The Mortgage Brokers Association.
Yes, and there's a high probability that I'll be out there as well. So
awesome. So we'll make amends before then. The check will be in the mail. So this is a part I love about seeing this. We actually see the back end. We're just one of the spokes in the wheel on all the services that Filogix provides, but this is just another part of the application that brokers can tap into.
Yeah, for sure. Like, one thing about the platform itself, and you've probably seen it through the previous presentations with Ryan and Carly as well, is that the platform is pretty much all in one in terms of its ability to manage a lot of your customer information, particularly history, data points, communication, which is important from an agent standpoint, not only for managing their client experience, but even for their compliance work that they have within their firms as well, just to make sure they're meeting with the requirements within the province that they're in terms of their license. But, I think the best way I describe Pro to a lot of users is it's sort of its own gray box. There's a lot of opportunity in terms of what you can do, how you can create things. Sometimes the challenge is where you really start, or how do you manage that experience within the platform. And so that's where myself, Carly, Ryan come into play in terms of taking what you usually do from a business flow or from a strategy standpoint, make sense of it, consolidate it a little bit, and then help you develop it within the Pro platform as best we can for you.
So take it away, man. It's all yours. We'll just block out our video here. We'll keep an eye on the chat. If there's any questions, we'll try and queue them up later for you so you can focus.
For sure. Thank you.
Awesome. Take it away.
All right. So for those who have not seen the previous presentations that have been done, I'm just going to touch a little bit on some of the functionality here at a very high level, not to deep dive into it, but really our focus for today's presentation is going to be around the application level automations that we have within Expert Pro. So right now you currently see me underneath boards here on the left-hand side. I know when Ryan did his presentation with the group previously, there was a focus really on just client boards, what they are, what they can do for you, which gives you really the option of really two at a very high level approaches with your boards. It allows you to ideally manage your workflow that you have as an agent from beginning to end. As you can see a little bit of that here within the top options that I have here in the statuses. You also have the ability to create boards specifically for customer listing and strategy. So in this case, you can always create essentially a retention board if you want to, for the purposes of establishing particular clients that you want to reach out to, say for deals that have not been completed, but you know the relationship is strong and you wish to follow up with them. That's sort of an option that you can use when it comes to our client boards. And also you can think about acquisition boards as well, where in this case, you can certainly create boards specifically for specific drip campaigns. And for those who were part of Carly's presentation, drip campaigns is certainly a very useful feature for ongoing communication with your clients on an automatic basis without having to necessarily set up ongoing marketing campaigns, which is actually another functionality that we have within the platform for one-off scenarios. So as you see here with the client boards, this is certainly just one of the options that we have here that allows you to organize your customer information and manage it. Each one of these particular tiles that you see here are client cards that you're able to go into, which opens up client profiles, which is the whole point of, as I mentioned earlier, the ability to manage the client experience in terms of having all the history there, communication, notes, reminders in terms of reach outs for clients, things of that nature, as well as the opportunity to create custom data fields as well that you can use for reporting that's actually leveraged through the client boards as well. And again, through the drip campaigns, we touched about that as well last month, where in this case, you have the ability to set up ongoing iterative email messages that go out to clients. I just touched on one here quickly, which gives you the ability to essentially send out specifically based on entry criteria and exit criteria, ongoing emails that go out to clients that, that you could control the timeline around. You control certainly the templates and the messaging that goes out and the ongoing emails that go out from there. The reason I touch base on this a little bit is because one thing we found within just some of our conversations that we had with clients is sometimes you think about marketing or drip campaigns in this situation, there is a little bit of a challenge around sometimes timeline, you know, what is the ideal timing around sending out messages, or even bigger than that, what is really going to be my marketing theme? Unless you have a marketing background where you know how to go about segmenting your clients for specific purposes, which in turn allows you to have particular messaging that goes out to clients. Sometimes it's very challenging to figure out where to start around how to create a theme or some sort of marketing approach that will make sense to your client base. And so the reason why I bring that up is I go back here underneath the automation header and go to view automations. One of the best options you can have to get your feet wet, get started into the marketing process within the platform is our application level automations. And so if I was to give a definition to what our application level automations are, I would say in this case, it works almost similar to a drip campaign in that there's iterative emails you can send automatically that go out. But the difference is the timeline for which they go out are actually set for you. And in this case, it does it automatically, where as opposed to maybe client profiles, which is relevant to the client board level, where you have to do a little bit more manual control. Here on the application level piece, it's all based on application data for completed applications that you have within the platform. So in effect, a lot of the work you have to go through for setting up a lot of your applicant level automations that you want to have here is really based on strictly templates, in this case, that you could create as part of the marketing here. So probably the best thing I could say in this case that will help in terms of using this platform or using this particular functionality is that it's a plug and play versus maybe having to go through a lot of the admin work of trying to figure out, again, timing and theme, particularly on the theme side, because you have right here the opportunity to send off client messages based on renewals, home anniversary, which in this case, from a field standpoint in your application would be the closing date. And of course, birthdays, which is pretty standard in terms of communication that you reach out to your clients. That being said, in this case, for a lot of scenarios, for those who go to the application level here for the automations, you'll actually see this screen initially when it comes to the setup. So I'm just going to talk about how it works in this case, and then we'll talk about a little bit about the benefits of it again thereafter. So in this case, how it works is when you get to the landing page here for application level, you have the opportunity to put in your name, the email address in this case that you want the messages to be sent from. If you don't have an email address here, which usually you won't for the first time, you will just click on this create button here on the right-hand side, enter in an email address. Within a few moments, your email will then receive a message directly that will give you the opportunity to verify that email address. So that way it triggers itself and brings itself back into the platform here. You'll know the email address is verified because I just click on the drop down. Here's the email address that I've had verified, and you'll see this verified symbol here in the right-hand corner, which will identify that, in this case, that email address has been verified. The next step thereafter would be going and inputting your address information, your physical address for your business. The reason for that is, as you click here, it'll give the specific as to why that's the case, but it's usually for CASL requirements by law. It turns when you send off ongoing messages to clients. Of course, if you want to get more information on it outside of the information that we have here, just Google, and in this case, take a look at what the CASL law requirements are and why your address information is relevant. And then the final piece here, which is probably the only thing in terms of timing that you have to worry about, is really when you want the default automation to go out. So you can specify which time you want it to go out. Could be, you know, if you want to be very extra, you could have it at 6 a.m. You could have it at 9 a.m. Most messaging that I'll find that most of our clients will go with in this situation, it's probably closer to the evening time, 7 or 8 p.m. when most clients are home and actually looking at their phones and willing to look at their emails versus any other distractions that they might have in a given day. So there's certainly opportunity to leverage whichever option you think that works best. But this is where you have the opportunity to input, in this case, the time as to when you want those messages to go out. Once you, I'm sorry, I should have done that. Once you're done, you'd click on Save Changes. I apologize. And from there, you'll get to this landing page. So we touched on it briefly. Here we have home renewals, which really takes a look at the maturity date of your application. Home anniversary, which is really the closing date of your applications for your clients. And birthdays, which in this case takes your latest application. But obviously when it comes to birthdays, that's never going to change no matter how much you may want your clients or your client may want their birthdays to be different. Obviously, you can never change your birthdays at all. It is what it is when it comes to what you have. Just looking at the renewal option here quickly and clicking on that drop down. I talked about this earlier about being very similar to our drip campaigns around having timelines in place. And so for renewals, you have the opportunity to have, it's already been prescribed for you rather, where you have specific days as to when messages can go out for your clients. So you have 1 year out for the renewals, 6 months, essentially 180 days out, 90 days out, 60 days out, and of course, 30-day reminders that you can send off to your clients as well. And you have the opportunity in this case to leverage all options, some options, or of course, no options if you decide to do so. I'm just gonna look at the first option that we have here for 365 days. Just clicking on it. Actually, I'm just gonna go, let's go with 90 days. Oh, I have a lot here. Clearly, I do a lot of these presentations. I'm just going to go 60 days for right now, just to give an example of what it looks like. So when you're actually ready, in this case, to actually set up, say, a home renewal email that goes out to your clients, as you can see here, literally, you're just going to have a section where you enter in the subject, which is the email subject that you would have. If you think about Outlook, for instance, and you look at the panel, when you look at your list of emails that you receive, obviously, there's going to be the subject header. And then there's the preview text, which is usually just the first line that you have within an email that essentially introduces the email that you're sending off to the client. And then from there, you'd click here to design your email template, which I'll do in a few moments to showcase that. You have the opportunity in this case to include co-applicants if you decide to do so. And then once you're done, you would just click on Save from there. And then you could do that for each of the options that we have here, 30 days, 90 days, and as I mentioned, all the other dates that we have here. The beauty in this case, of course, of having ongoing reminders for your clients is that you can have the unique messaging that you need to create a, I guess you'd say, a sense of urgency or a call to action for your clients at each of these marks, and creating some sort of benefit in terms of the content that you'll be using, which will be found in your templates around why the customer needs to reach out to you to make a decision as to, you know, here's your mortgage that's coming up for renewal. Here's the opportunities that could come up based on where you're at right now. Here's some things to think about. And here's why you need to reach out to me. And here's my communication information that's within the actual email itself. So this is where renewals certainly help in terms of reaching out to clients. Home anniversaries, same concept as well. The beauty with the home anniversary piece, just clicking on view details here. Again, too many cases where I've presented previously. Same concept here as well. Subject, preview text. Click here when it comes to creating your template design, co-applicants, and save. So as I mentioned earlier, really a very quick plug and play opportunity that you have here with really not too much work around trying to put together a strategy per se around how you communicate out to your clients outside of your context when it comes to the templates. I'm just going to click here for a moment and go to the template section for right now. And as you can see, it takes me directly to the templates option underneath marketing. For those who, again, saw our previous presentations through Mr. Taxes, our drip campaigns leverage these templates. Our marketing that we have here in terms of marketing campaigns also leverages these templates. And our application level automation leverage these templates as well. Here's pretty much all the templates that we have, whether it be ones that are predefined within the platform, the ones that are saved as well. Here you have the opportunity to look at your saved ones, predefined ones that are in the platform altogether, which essentially is all these. Or if you wish to segment further, you can look at generic, birthdays, newsletters, and so on. When you start thinking about the renewal options, clearly here you have the options through the predefined ones that we have here for renewals. So you can certainly leverage those. When you think about the home anniversaries, you can certainly leverage the celebratory ones, for instance, celebrating in this situation the anniversary of those clients in terms of the home that they're in. And then, of course, when it comes to birthdays, you have the birthday option here in terms of leveraging some of the options that we have here as well. When you're ready to select the template, just sort of rehashing a little bit what was discussed in the drip campaigns again, you can click on duplicate, create the specific name in this case. Call this one Mr. Taxes for right now. And once you're ready, when you create that template, you'll go right into the template itself, and you have the ability to actually create the content that you're looking for. In fairness, this is probably going to be the most challenging part of the work that you go through when it comes to the marketing. Obviously, you want to have some content here that will be very applicable to your client base in this scenario. So, obviously, if you need some help on the creative side, you always can reach out to a person who specializes in marketing, and they could certainly help with that. Or, of course, you could also do your own personal research. But just bear in mind in this scenario, you don't have to necessarily stick with the standards that you have here. You can certainly change the images if you decide to do so, for instance, utilizing the change image option. You can certainly add more text. You can certainly change the information here around the content as well. And of course, you can certainly upload your personal social media tags here as well, as you see. There's a lot of flexibility that you have within the templates functionality that will give you the ability to communicate the message that you want to your clients, regardless if it's birthdays, if it's home anniversary, or in this case, when it comes to renewal time. So whichever option you select or whichever you design by, go with it. And once you're done, you just save it. Once you're complete, you'll just go back into the automations. It says that, but it actually saves it. And once you're complete, you'll go back to that section. And you'll see in this scenario that you actually will see the design there. You'll see the design there in terms of the option that you select. So for right now, I'm actually going to, again, for our presentation purposes here, just have that information inputted when it comes to the subject and preview text. With the design, select Mr. Taxes. You'll see it there. If I want to, I could include co-applicant, save it, and that's it. You're literally done. So as mentioned, in this case, the most challenging part you're probably going to have in this entire process is going to be around specifically the content that you want to have in the template. So, benefits. Some things to think about when it comes to the renewals. Obviously, with renewals in this situation, you're trying to advise your clients in this case that you have a certain number of days between the date of that email and the date of the maturity date when it comes to their specific mortgage. In your messaging, you could probably have information relating to benefits that would be making sense to your client. For instance, if you message them at the 1 year mark, you may be telling your clients in this situation, by the way, you're 1 year out. Here's some things to think about in this case. If you're thinking about going to another property, reach out to me. If you're thinking about maybe in this case, taking out equity for a second property in this scenario, you should reach out to me because here's some options to think about without necessarily having to pay a penalty. Or maybe in this situation, the customer's reached a cash flow challenge and you're reaching out, hey, you need some more cash at this time. Reach out to me. I have some options with some lenders I'm working with that could help you out. So if you're able to certainly make the content that you have very specific to a particular message or objective that the customer has already had in mind, and you just sort of reminded them, that will certainly create a call to action where the client will reach out to you just based on the fact that they want to know what their options are. And you can do the same thing here at the 180 mark, 90-day mark, certainly create a little bit more urgency if you're reaching the 60 to 30-day mark with these clients, because obviously they need to make a decision and certainly move forward. The home anniversary, I think, is probably one of the most untapped ones. And for those who've done it for years, I mean, this is sort of just the normal, if you will, or just the basic when it comes to marketing. But when it comes to home anniversary and closing dates, obviously this is probably very huge to first-time home buyers. This is also very huge to clients in this case who buy second homes as well. Certainly your communication content with them could still be a congratulations on, whether it be your first property or second property. But this section also is relevant for clients in this situation who you might have maybe a debt consolidation plan with. And at this case, you're following up with them 6 months out, 1 year out, to have the conversation with them to say, we had this plan. Here's your cash flow situation that we helped you with back 6 months or 1 year ago. Tell me how you're doing. Reach out to me. Let's have a conversation further and see if there's any further strategies that we need to implement if you're not following the plan, or just simply congratulate you if you are following the plan in this case, and to see exactly what other solutions, if needed, could be put into place as well. So ideally, all these options are very, very useful, very helpful in terms of reaching out and engaging your clients. And as I mentioned earlier, a quick plug and play without having to do too much work. And of course, there's the birthday piece as well that gives you the opportunity to reach out to your clients. Same concept as all the others, plug and play options, just in this case have a template specifically for birthdays, not a newsletter. One thing to note, of course, when it comes to birthdays, and obviously you want to use your own sort of discretion around it. Clients for the most part can tell when you're sending them an email that's just a happy birthday message, and it may not necessarily be as sincere, so it does get a little tricky. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, that's fine. Just set up an alert to remind yourself of the birthdays, or take a look at the dashboard that we have here that actually tells you customer birthdays that are coming up over a period of 30 days. And you can actually go directly to the customer profile and have unique messaging for birthdays if you decide to do so as well. So just something to keep in mind when it comes to your opportunities there around reaching out to clients. Some quick caveats to be aware of when it comes to the renewals and home anniversaries, as you see here. The data or the applications that are selected are only strictly completed applications. So if you have any incomplete applications on file, you will not get any automations that will trigger for that, if you will. So in those cases, when it comes to completed applications, you just want to make sure the application show is complete to make sure the automations go through. The other thing to be aware of is that it takes all completed applications for a client. So if the client has 5 different properties, for instance, and say they meet the criteria, using home anniversary as an example, they meet the criteria of, say, 6 months between their closing date and 6 months out, they're going to get an email in this case letting them know congratulations on this in terms of having their home and whatever messaging you decide to have. The reason why I bring that up is just because for home renewals, that's pretty critical. If the client has 5 properties, especially scattered over a period of time, you definitely want to reach out to them when it comes to each of those properties and provide them their options. Home anniversaries might be a little bit more trickier in that regard. You do have to manage a little bit around that customer experience. If they already received the message in terms of that first-time home and you've already discussed your options, you just want to make sure that any further messages that the customer may get is essentially stopped, so that way you don't have that problem. And the best way to do that is just go to view upcoming recipients and ensure that the customer has those emails suppressed to avoid any further messages going out when it comes to that particular automation. For those who are curious, this is just a setting symbol, which it gives you the ability to update and edit as you go along the way. And this applies to pretty much any of the application level automations that we have here. And once you're complete, of course, just make sure this is toggled over so that way it's active. And that way the automation goes out no matter what when it comes to reaching out to your clients. I'd probably say this is probably, again, as a beginning function for marketing, probably the first step to introduce yourself to your clients on an ongoing engagement way. From there, once you get a little bit more comfortable, you can start complementing these automations with more targeted types of marketing, whether it be through the marketing campaigns option that we have here from a seasonal side, or through the drip campaigns where you have a real aggressive campaign that you want to run, and a particular client base will be interested in that type of campaign offer that you're throwing out there. So all in all, that's pretty much application level automations in this case. Nothing crazy exciting, but at the same time, very useful, very exciting tool in terms of its ability to engage your clients without too much work on your end outside of being creative through our templates.
And that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
So I didn't see any questions come on during the chat. Pretty thorough presentation. I feel like I'm an expert now on the platform. It's always easier to watch than to do that. So what do you suggest for brokers? Something they can take, maybe a baby step to get started on the process that you described today.
I would always say that the first baby step would be to get a feel for the templates in terms of just some of the functionality and how it works. I think that's the very first key piece. Because once you get more familiar with that, it then becomes easier in terms of what you can leverage in this situation while creating marketing content. But the other piece in this scenario as well is, even ask for help a little bit if you're not necessarily on the creative side for marketing. Because again, that's probably the biggest challenge I find for most agents or anybody really on the marketing end. It's not even so much the strategy. It's really how to create content in a way that entices people to watch it without necessarily saying, I'm not interested, just period. You know, you want to have an image that engages. And once that image engages, it allows them to go into that first line of text to say, I wonder what this is about. And that first line is so critical, because if that first line doesn't say anything, then at that point, you've pretty much lost the client. So that'd be my recommendation. And in terms of the automation piece, that would be, I'd recommend the first step to get your marketing out the door, because drip campaigns, as I showed off earlier, and Carly showed off earlier, can be a little bit challenging, especially because you could do mass messaging, but at the same time, some people like to target specific client bases as well. And then marketing as well, which in this case is pretty simple, but also has its own unique challenges in its own regard as well.
Excellent. I know Jesse's a big tech guy. He's always got some great comments from an outside perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a fan ever since the first time I've seen the Filogix platform. I've been a fan of how you guys do things and just the user-friendly manner that you guys, represent it. I don't really have any questions or comments or anything. I'm just a fan. And if I was a mortgage broker, I would 100% be utilizing this to its full potential.
Yeah, it's like I mentioned earlier, I used Excel as an example. Most people use 5% of the software, but they're paying for it every month. And you guys do have the helpline. And, I know you're always there to help. Pretty clear, demonstrations you guys do. It seems simple until you start using it. So the only suggestion I have, being an outsider from the mortgage industry, so to speak, or a service provider to the mortgage industry, is just try it out, get in and see what it can do. And, that's the only way you can really, find out what it's capable of. So we'll keep it going here. I finally found a life insurance program we can afford. When I die, they'll send you a lottery ticket. That's that's too. That's what people hope for. The GoFundMe campaigns, etc. But the best I know in the mortgage industry, they have mortgage protection plan, which is the basic insurance. Creditor insurance. There's downsides to it, but the upside is it's the insurance you have in place when you need it. That's that's the big one. And again, we're building these webinars as the side hustle for your side hustle. So we try not to cut into the mortgage broker's business, but if you have clients that are needing help with their tax situation, getting taxes filed, we just passed April, many clients, brokers sending their clients in to get the returns filed. We can get electronic NOA, so that's an instant notice of assessment. As soon as we hit the button to file, we can download that assessment. If clients file themselves or paper return, it could take months to get that assessment back. So especially when you're on a crunch as a mortgage broker, and we pay out referrals for that. We pay a 20% referral fee for all referrals that come in through the DOLLARTAXCLUB. And the affiliate program, what's in it for brokers? Well, the referral commissions, we create social media posts for brokers with your affiliate code and QR code built right in. So that's something that we do for brokers. So if you're listening in and you're not just loving the Filogix platform, and we don't say that just because you're on Elton, but a lot of brokers rave about it. There's lots of platforms out there, but when you're ready for a real one, then come to Filogix. And discounted services for brokers. And tax tip of the day: don't claim CCA for your home or small business returns, because that gets clawed back when you sell your home, and they do charge capital gains tax if you claim the CCA each year. If you're an independent agent or mortgage broker and you're claiming your use of home space, don't claim your CCA. If you have in the past, talk to us before you sell your home. You don't want a big CCA or capital gains tax bill, do you? I don't think anybody does. We pay enough. And Q&A. So let's open it up to everybody. And if nobody's got any questions there, we can just chat for a bit and finish off the hour. So Elton, how long did it take you to get up to speed on the software? And you have a bit of a tech background, working in the banking industry and working on with data in the back. What's your comparison to the Filogix platform? Honest opinion, to what you saw at the banks? At
the banks, the one thing that the banks for the most part don't have is quick agility and flexibility in terms of technology, particularly from just a CRM perspective. And also from a perspective, just in basic technology, like most bank infrastructure was built to pretty much last forever. And the assumption was there wasn't going to be too much requirement to adapt. But now they're facing the challenge of adaptation and cheaper technology options for different fintechs. So you can pretty much start your own fintech company I wouldn't say pretty quickly, but you can pretty much have a lot of competitors that disturb the space at this stage. I'm finding in this case that the competitiveness from the bank's end is slow, not just from a bureaucracy standpoint, but just slow in terms of just when they actually implement products out. By the time they implement a product, it's been 2 years, and it's already 2 years too late, if not even longer than that. So I'd say that's really the comparable differences to what we have here. Here, we're a lot more adaptable, a lot more agile in terms of our ability to make quick changes when we have to. And we're always looking to increase performance when it comes to feedback that we get from the community. Like whether we get back from the community that we're very honest about is certainly is the customer application portal, which is something that is going to be introduced in terms of the new look for it is going to be introduced within the very near future. So the experience for that is going to be much better, not just for our agents, but for our clients as well. And there's other things that are coming down as well that is going to be just a better experience overall. So all that to say in this case, I think that's really the biggest difference between the two. We're a little bit quicker than what big banks are willing to do. And also, we also follow not just, what the data tells us, so to speak, but we do take the feedback from the industry that makes the most sense as a user, because ultimately you're trying to make the life of your agents easier and also more efficient as well. You want them to be faster because every time they lose time to you, that means they're losing out to a competitor, whether it be a bank or another agent in this case, and they just simply can't have that.
And then the difference, everybody that is using the platform, those that use it the most are going to succeed. Again, there's competition within the Filogix platform. You're competing with other agents. So if you're using all the tools and you're tuning into all the webinars and reaching out to Elton and the team, etc. In the chat area, I know Alicia's put up your email. Is there a link or a helpline? I know there is inside of Filogix, but what about somebody just watching, thinking about signing up? Where are they going to go?
In this case, there's a couple of options in this scenario, but probably the more ideal option is to reach out to myself or Carly. I dropped my email in there as well. But of course, for those who've seen the previous ones, you can reach out to Carly or Ryan as well. But we're probably the best sources to reach out to, mostly because I think the biggest thing for most people is they see these presentations and it sounds great in terms of just what it can do. But then when it comes to taking those tools and applying it to the practice of what their business is, it's a matter of just organizing those thoughts and how that's going to look to them. So that's why I recommend they come to us, where we can have that conversation, and then we can leverage the tools as a starting point around, here's what you currently do, here's how these tools can help you, and then just build from there in terms of, to your point earlier about the Excel, because I'm an Excel guy as well, and I'm probably using about 6% of the functionality in the platform, how you can build up from there to get better and learn more about it.
And it compounds and snowballs, I guess. Once you learn, then you start opening your eyes to what it's capable of. Exactly. I mean, unless you're really capable of what it can do. Do you have any links with presentations, or do you have training videos or anything we can put up?
I do. If you give me a few moments, I can certainly put it within the group here.
Yeah, and again, we try and sandwich a half hour of training in at the end of every month here on our webinar, so you can loop back and look for the Filogix webinars on our YouTube channel.
Hopefully this doesn't come out too jumbled. But I pretty much put in the group there just some shorter videos that we leverage to teach agents or any user in this case who's interested on just some of the functionality within the platform. So something as basic as how to add your email, how to sync your email, in terms of syncing your calendar, all the way through to major functionality things like, in this case, how to request an NOA, how to request bank statements, things of that nature when it comes to application levels, how to set up boards, automations. Also a comparison between our Pro and Plus versions of our platform. So Plus essentially is the free version of the platform, whereas Pro is the paid subscription. The key difference between the two is there's functionality on the Plus side that's limited versus the Pro side that is unlimited when it comes to any usages that we have in the platform. And then for those who have a lot of time on their hands, we do have essentially what is called a lunch and learn session, which is one of the initial sessions that were started, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, when it was essentially the transition to Door to Expert Pro. Pretty much a 40-minute session that covers really the major flow experience-wise that the user will have for the very first time. So going to your settings, setting up your brand, setting up your logos, getting that all into place, and then starting off with how you want to go about capturing your client information as part of your experience moving forward. So,
and uploading existing clients or mail lists, etc.
Exactly.
Excellent. So the one-stop shop CRM and mortgage platform tool with all of the, I guess, credit bureau requests. What are just a short list? I know NOAs obviously, but credit bureaus. What else can they grab off of or through Filogix?
So when you think about application level functionality, that's key. The ability to request bank statements, for instance, is certainly a huge time saver. I think one of the caveats that some people might throw at you is, it depends on the client in this case in terms of allowing their banks in this situation to authorize them to hold their statements through their online banking. But it's still a time saver nonetheless, helps for down payments, helps for confirming income information as well. So that's a huge piece. We also have the e-sign functionality. We didn't really talk about that, but that's something certainly we could present as well. Obviously, from a competitive standpoint, there's a lot of companies that offer e-sign functionality, but it's directly in the platform. So it saves you a lot of time, as opposed to going to a secondary source to do so. Another thing that we have here as well is really on top of the automation piece. We talked about application automations, but we didn't really talk about document automations, which for those who have the experience of letting their clients do the application versus you probably interjecting and doing the application with the client, that becomes very critical just because the document automations, if you put it in place, if your client makes particular selections in an application, they will trigger for them at the end of the submission specific document requirements that they're going to need to provide upfront. So like a common example is if they select divorced as part of their marital status, you can have a term and condition that pops up immediately when they submit that lets them know you need to get your divorce and separation agreement. So things like that in this situation that makes the experience more efficient for your client and faster to get that information for you, as opposed to you necessarily having to chase down your clients to get that type of information after they just submit an application. So that's just a couple of pieces that we have up there. And I do apologize. You did ask me a question at the very top. How long did it take for me to get comfortable with the platform? I didn't answer that. So I'll say in this case, I was comfortable enough presenting the platform after 3 months into it, just really not picking up so much functionality, but really picking up from a business context perspective, how it makes sense for you to use it. So it made it easier to present that way. And then after a period of time, you start to pick up on the nuances on the platform, which is always an ongoing process because no matter how much you think like, I got it, this is good, I'm probably 90% there. It just takes one thing to drop you from 90% all the way down to 50% in terms of your feel about the platform, in terms of just what you know. So it's always an ongoing process, but I would say after about 3 months, I felt pretty good about it and been presenting pretty much ever since.
Excellent. So if you have a bit of a tech background, very easy to jump into. If not, then reach out and get started. The easiest way is just to get signed up. You got to be in it to win it, right?
For sure.
So let's wrap it up with a little sports talk. Who's going to win the cup?
Ooh, I think I don't know if Carolina won last night. I think Carolina lost to New York last night, but I think right now, Tampa Bay three-peats. I think that series against the Leafs actually challenged them because they manhandled Florida, and I didn't see that happening at all. And I don't think the Canes have the personnel. I mean, I'm a huge Rob Brindamore fan as a coach, but I don't know if he has the scheme this time to take down Tampa Bay. And so I think if Tampa Bay gets out of it and goes into the conference finals, I don't have confidence in Edmonton. Sorry to do it. I definitely don't have confidence in Calgary. Sorry, out west. Forgot who's on the other side in this situation in terms of the West. But either way, I mean, at this stage of the game, I think Tampa Bay, it doesn't matter who comes out from, Edmonton, Calgary, or the other teams in the Western Conference. In this case, it's going to be Tampa Bay three-peating, in my opinion.
How about NBA?
It's going to be Golden State. Too much experience, too strong. I know what Boston is doing on the defensive end, and they're doing great jobs in terms of running their screens and blitzes at star players and trapping. But the problem is Golden State has way too many guys at this point that you can move the ball around and shoot threes from. They're not really just mid-range guys. I'm getting too technical. It's basketball. That's one thing I'm very, very particular in. But they have too many guys right now that can move the ball and get to three-point lines and move quickly versus these other teams that they're playing where their strength really is mid-range. And you could defend better in the mid-range against guys because you just apply body to them, really make it uncomfortable, crowd them, and those shots won't go down as much as they would in the regular season. So Golden State has too many options, too many weapons, and I think they'll be able to take the series, whoever they play, in like 6.
And Jesse, we'll just go hockey. Simple question. That's a lob question for you.
Man, yeah, I don't even have an opinion, if I'm being honest.
I grew up in the 60s and 70s, so I was way back when a Montreal fan. Then I became a Bobby Orr fan. You know, I got to see Bobby Orr play in 76 when he was playing for Chicago. He actually saw him play for Chicago, and I saw him play for Team Canada. Both times in Ottawa. They played part of the Canada Cup in Ottawa, and Chicago played an exhibition game. So I got to see him. You know, it was in his later season. So I was a big hockey fan. Don't follow it much anymore, but, you know, you can't help but watch Edmonton and Calgary and pull for a Canadian team. That's as technical as I'm going to get.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at too, is just, you know, I would hate to see, what I don't want to happen is Calgary win this series. Beyond that, I mean, I don't really have any judgment.
Ooh, I completely forgot that the team that is in the other conference, or the other playoff semifinal right now, is Colorado and St. Louis. And I think Colorado won. I might have to renege on what I just said about Tampa Bay doing it. I like Colorado. I like what they're doing right now too. So I'm gonna stick with Tampa Bay, because at this stage I have to ride that horse out at this stage of the game. But Colorado,
Tampa Bay, man, it's recorded, so it's official. We'll see in a couple of weeks.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull for the Canadian team. You know, it looks like it's Edmonton right now, but whoever pulls through that series, I'll be pulling for them. I know Jesse will too.
For sure.
Okay, I guess until next week, we'll give you a final word there, guys, Jesse and then Elton, and we'll wrap it up for the week.
My final words, I guess, would be thanks for the presentation. It's always nice to learn a little bit more about the platform. And, you know, when it really comes down to it, I think you guys are winning just simply because you make life easy for not only the agents, but the clients as well. And the more steps that there are involved for the less likely that somebody's willing to go all the way through the process, or at least make it, you know, through seamlessly. And I think you guys are definitely ahead of the curve when it comes to simplicity and taking into consideration not only usability, but also user experience. And yeah, that's that.
Thank you.
Final word, Elton.
Final word. So my email information is in the group chat here. Also will be presented and sent off to everybody who's joined this YouTube live today. So much appreciated. Again, if anything, as Robert said in this scenario, when it comes to the platform, certainly just try to get your feet wet into it. Look into it, just touch certain functionality, key things that you think will be relevant to you. There's certain things we didn't talk about yet that I'm sure my colleagues will bring up again in the future, like, for instance, client profiles and how to create custom fields that will allow you to do your own reporting in a way that will make sense in terms around segmenting and strategizing unique marketing opportunities for your clients as well. I think that's a little bit more advanced, but there's opportunity there for that. And that's actually a tool I love, mostly because it uses my other favorite tool, which is also Excel. So again, when it comes to just what we can do, and if there's any concerns or questions, certainly reach out to myself, reach out to my colleague Carly as well, or even Ryan Spence, who is a living legend in this industry and also for Filogix as well. Reach out to us, and we're more than happy in this case to provide insight needed to help move your business and help grow it.
Awesome, guys. We'll see everybody next week.